Hi, this is Cheryl Swalgy from Astral Connections again, and here with me I have Bonnie Cottrell. Bonnie has been a tarot card reader.
Yes.
Psychic.
Yeah.
Medium.
Yes.
She, the biofeedback machine.
Yes.
She works with that with her clients. What else do you do, Bonnie? There's so many things.
I do.
She teaches tarot classes. She teaches aura classes.
Yes.
You do?
I do. I also do healing touch and therapeutic touch.
Aha, there we go.
Now I've been psychic my whole life. On and off, sometimes more stronger than others. And then when I was about 42, I would say, I took healing touch and therapeutic touch. Now this really, the fundamental meditations they have in it really grounded me. I became extremely psychic, and all of this work to do with regression, healing touch, therapeutic touch, biofeedback, tarot card reading came extremely easy.
Can you tell me a little bit about you as your childhood, when you were
In my
growing
childhood?
up? Yeah, tell me.
Okay, so my first awareness that I was psychic was that there was some people that came over to play cards with my grandmother. And I said to my grandmother, "Why are you letting that man in the house?" And she goes, "Why?" And I said, "Because he beats his wife all the time." And she goes, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Well, can't you see it?" And she goes, "No." And I know that, she says, "But how do you know that? You've never met him before." I said, "Well, there's a picture on top of him, hitting his wife." And then the next time I was about in grade 3, and my mom was dating this man and she was living with him, and she was having a very hard time. And she wanted to go to Stanley Park. And I heard this loud voice in my head go, "No, don't go to Stanley Park." And I kept saying this to my mom. Well, she got very angry with me, and my other two brother and sister wanted to go to Stanley Park. And she actually slapped me across the face. And she said, "Ouch. You do not, every kid wants to go to Stanley Park. What's wrong with you?" And anyways, we went to Stanley Park. And as we got there, we took the bus, we walked in behind the penguins to the front, and there was the man that my mother was living with another woman kissing her on the park bench. Oh, no. And my mom looked at me, and then she fainted. And she was pregnant at the time with this man's child. Now, I don't know if you, anyways, so then my mother went home, and she told me to go to a friend's place. And so I went to a friend's place, and they were going to A&W. And in grade 3, grade 4, you like going to A&W, especially if you haven't gone. But I had to go home. My mom actually was committing an abortion on herself, and she was bleeding to death.
Oh no.
And so when I came home, I went to the neighbors, told them to phone the ambulance, and this was in the 60s when there was an abortion, there was a birth control, right, and all those sort of things. And she had 3 kids on her own, so that was a big deal. Right. Anyways, her veins collapsed, and she did live, but she was in ICU for about a week after that. So that was my first experiences with it. And then it was just knowing things about people, or feeling tremendously uncomfortable. I thought that's the way everyone was, and sometimes I still forget that. I will say something to someone thinking they know that, and they don't. Right.
So it's just an intuition that was building up inside you, and you were recognizing it as you were growing up. And Stanley Park says you lived in Vancouver, so I have to ask you that.
Yeah.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, so when did you decide that this intuition, natural gift of yours was something you were going to base your career on?
Well, I did tarot cards when my kids were younger. This was when I was about 30, and I got so many bottles of wine for doing tarot cards. I thought, well, I don't need any more wine, I'll charge them $20. So, and I kept getting more and more clientele. Then this woman came over to do healing touch on my husband, who had hepatitis C, and he got the most relief from his hepatitis C from this woman doing healing touch. And I'd never seen him in a better mood that long, about a month, because it's a lot of anger issues with hepatitis C. Anyways, I took healing touch, and that really made my perception clear. I understood things about gift, and I knew things about healing touch, tarot cards, other auras, everything to do with that. When I took healing touch, it was like I was almost living a past life. I knew.
Right, you knew what was going on before you
Yes.
even taught it. It was like,
And it was extremely easy to
Right.
learn.
okay, so healing touch, there's so many different modalities out there to do with healing touch. What specific one were you attracted
The reason
to?
why I was attracted to healing touch is because it was helping people that were physically ill. And Janet Macon was a nurse who practiced actually transcendental meditation with Barbara Brennan,
Okay.
who does the Hands of Light book. And so I actually practiced with her and Alfie Holst, who was the president of Healing Touch. So I did all 8 levels in less than probably a year, which is very unheard of. It usually takes a process of learning things, where I just felt I was where I was
Progressing
supposed to
really
be.
fast, yeah.
I didn't
That's
have a
awesome.
problem with it. And it is a very, for anyone searching out some healing modality, it's got great fundamentals. You can actually get a practice doing it. It is a very awesome, with a lot of integrity too,
Okay.
their classes.
Excellent, excellent. And so you did that for how long?
10 years.
10 years, and you've had 10 years of clients that could give
Yes,
testimonials
I
about how
worked
well
in-
it worked for you. for them.
I worked in chemotherapy wards in Nanaimo Hospital doing healing touch. I'm nurses and doctors as well. And it was amazing how they got so much relief. Now, it didn't always heal the person. I still believe in placebo effect. Yet some people I worked on who had AIDS, full-blown AIDS, got healed, but someone else didn't. But it did relieve stress, or it made them more comfortable, or whatever they could accept,
Right. I
right?
firmly believe whatever you believe will heal you.
That's
Whatever-
right.
Whatever you believe.
And it
will
depends
heal
on their issue at a time. If there's some issue, I mean, if they're going to court or going to getting divorced, or there's other sick people in the house, it has a lot to do with all those issues.
you. Right.
Now, I find if people learn how to do transcendental meditation, those would probably be the best that would be affected, or are highly delusional, actually. Because those people that are delusional actually believe in something impossible. And so they keep believing it until it actually happens. Because you can't get a new idea or a new thing happening if your rational mind is so strong that it can't happen.
Right.
And that, I think that's what a lot of people have trouble with, this type of work or anything. And they should use their, their
Judgment.
exactly in it. But that's why nothing changes or shifts over, is because it is you're too controlled by your rational mind, or your whole family is,
Right.
right?
Well, you're very right brain, so.
Yes, I am. I'd like to blend them both one day. And I'm very attention deficit too. And one thing I really believe is that people with high trauma in their life, or a lot of head injuries, or near-death experiences, I believe that it stimulates the pituitary gland and makes a person use more of their brain. And search out safe places, makes them psychic, all those type of things.
That's very interesting. So the physical impact on the brain, you think, opens up the spiritual aspects of the brain too?
Yes, because the Coast Salish natives, when they pick a psychic healer of their tribe, they're psychic already, like what I was. But then they do a high trauma thing, which is called a mock drowning. They submerge them underwater. Now they know that they're not going to be drowned, but their body doesn't, which is the subconscious, which it panics. And they are even more so
psychic as a result of
yes,
that.
and
Wow.
that does it. Their adrenaline goes and it goes to the pituitary brain.
Wow, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So then, okay, so you were doing Healing Touch for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide to do, the psychic things like tarot card reading?
I always did tarot cards is
anyways.
something I always love to do.
Right.
I just always love to do, and teaching it too.
Right.
I teach
How do
people how to find an aura with L rods or a pendulum in my classes, so that they can actually feel when they're close to the outside of someone's aura. So when they do, you encompass somebody else's aura when you do a tarot card reading. And you are focused on your client and nothing else. And then you read those cards. So those cards are just energized. And it's a science. Yeah, those cards, like if somebody wants to know about their house, there is cards that come up for a house. 2 of Wands, 4 of Wands, all those type of structural type tarot cards.
When you
As
say
they come up.
structural, what do you mean?
For structure.
Okay.
Is the 4 of Wands and 2 of Wands. It has to do with building, signing papers, all those type of things.
Interesting. What's the 10 of Wands? 10 of Swords.
The 10 of Swords. That would be a lot of mental stress.
Oh, interesting. Fascinating. Okay, so now we're here and now, and what's Bonnie doing these days? I know you had a metaphysical store for many years.
Well, I would really like to teach on the mainland and do tarot cards. That's what I'd like to do. And the biofeedback as well. The biofeedback...
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you came in touch with the biofeedback and where does it come from, what drew you to it, etc.
Okay. A lady named Linda had a biofeedback machine and she had just bought it. And she came into my store and she had had hepatitis C. And she was in a group of people of 10. Now, she had the machine for almost 6 months, I believe. Her hepatitis C disappeared. And that's what my husband died of, hepatitis C.
So that interested you in it.
That's why. And she's the only one out of that whole group that's still alive. It was absolutely amazing. Now she had to do the things.
The healthy
It
things.
wasn't just this machine.
Right.
It changed her attitude though and freed up her anger issues. She had a lot of forgiveness issues. Hepatitis C has got to do with anger in the liver and internalizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they're alcoholics as well. And that doesn't affect the liver as far as hepatitis C, but it does make it vibrate just out of this world. Because the liver is always vibrating.
Right.
And so if it vibrates too high, it exhausts itself and then disease comes in because then it goes low.
So it's not good for an organ to vibrate too high?
Well, especially the liver, that high. Yes, when you're angry, if you put your hand on your liver, actually a doctor will tell you that anger issues have to do with the liver.
Oh, interesting.
And they will, they know that.
Okay, so you learn about this biofeedback machine, and then for some reason you decide to what? Go out and buy one, take a course?
Well, I tried to prove it wrong, and I lied to it, I did all kinds of
But
things.
before you did that, you must have made a decision to go out and buy one or to take a course, or maybe you decided...
No, I
you were
went on
doing
my
it
friend's,
hers.
Linda's, I
okay.
went on it. And I lied to it, like I said, and did all kinds of things, and it was true. Everything that was on there was great, and it was amazing. You have to be extremely truthful with yourself, though. If you're in any type of denial, a biofeedback machine isn't for you. Unless somebody just worked. Now, I've had clients that are tremendously don't want to, but they want to get healed, so they tell me, Bonnie, just do what you have to do, and don't talk to me. Don't tell me anything, because I'll deny it or argue with you.
Right.
So, and you have to be patient with those type of people, right? That want to, part of them wants to stay there with the cancer or whatever, for whatever reason is theirs.
Okay, now, you also took a course in biofeedback, right?
Yes, I did.
Tell us a little bit about that course. How long was it? What did it entail for you, etc.?
Well, each course, and there was 2 sessions, it was 200 hours, like 2 years of university. And it's very intense. But I found even that very easy because I understood the vibrations and how it assessed and why something was there. I did tarot cards one time, and then I had somebody on the machine. So when I had them on the machine, I hadn't finished testing them, and I said to them, is there something about your dad and your heart? And she goes, how do you know that already? Am I hooked up to the machine and am I on there? And she was just being finished tested. But her dad had just died, and she was afraid of having heart issues herself. But the machine came up with exactly those issues. Right. So I felt very in sync with the machine, not very much so. Mm-hmm. But I'd just done tarot cards, and you have to, that's one thing, doing both. Right. You have to shut yourself down and just let the machine do the work, right? Because I didn't want to spook anybody. Yeah, that wasn't my intention.
So, okay, so in this course, this machine handles a lot of information. It handles physical ailments, it handles
land masses,
it handles the auric field and the magnetic field, and animals. In what sense?
Yes, animals actually are very simple to test and then simple to heal. They don't alarm either. They just absorb it all. They don't have any,
Well, they don't have a system where they choose anything. They just accept whatever comes their way. That's right.
Exactly. It's very easy to treat animals.
So, and when Bonnie says alarm, the system basically has a mechanism in there where it alarms, it gives a signal when a client is resisting something. Is that correct?
Yeah, when they resist. They want to hold on to, usually mental fixations, which is a thought pattern of, from grief to all kinds of losses, from money to whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Then they'll alarm because they believe that they should stay in this state because of their anger towards whatever has been done to them. Which is true for a certain amount of time, but the longer you stay in that state, energetically you're vibrating lower and lower till you get chronic depression. And the way to get rid of chronic depression too, and I've worked on a lot of people with depression, is amino acids and fatty acids, you guys. If a person just takes that, they'll find that stuff goes away. Take it for a month, it works better than any type of, unless you're highly suicidal, but even then it works very good. A lot of bees, those type of things, because that's basically what your body's lacking when you're depressed. Right. It's not making that anymore. Right. So just consuming that will change your state. It would. And then a bit of exercise. You need to get those serotonin levels up, and just by exercise 15 minutes a day. Okay.
So, okay, and then the other aspect that the biofeedback machine deals with is auras, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly does it do? It reads the auric field?
It sweeps through it.
Okay.
So the satellite's over top of you. And then you're hooked up to the machine.
What satellite's over top of me?
The satellite is focused on you, that this machine is hooked up to. So it's focused on you, you're hooked up to it. So energetically, for 3 to 4 feet around your body, it literally sweeps anything that vibrationally isn't good for you and takes it out. It realigns your chakras, and people usually feel very clear-headed afterwards.
Okay.
It's probably the most felt thing for them. Also, when in clearing the aura, all the things that the machine does before that, it seems to sustain it longer. So instead of just lasting 2 weeks, it'll last a month.
Right.
So I always try to end with that.
So when you clear someone's auric field and it balance the chakras and align them, how long do they stay balanced?
It depends on the person's thought patterns. When those thought patterns go back to what misaligned it and emotions,
Right.
because the aura is like a big, it's like weather. So your emotions and your things you think about actually make those things in that field. Or the interaction with other people also make your field. So it's like the expression would be like it changes the weather of your aura. If you're mad, it would be dark and gloomy, and if you're happy, it's sunny and bright, and all those colors in it.
Wow, sounds fascinating. Bonnie's going to do a demonstration on the biofeedback machine for us, and we can show you that later. Well, we've talked about the biofeedback machine, we've talked about tarot card reading. Bonnie's going to join us maybe once or twice a week. She'll come in and do biofeedback readings for people. She'll do some tarot card reading too, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. And she's going to, in November, teach 2 classes, one on tarot card reading and one on auras and the auric field, and give demonstration of the biofeedback machine at that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we look forward to having her here. Is there anything you want to share with the audience, that may be a question that you want me to ask you that I haven't asked you?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay.
The one thing is that the depression thing. Take your vitamin Bs, your amino acids, fatty acids, and the best you can afford that can get into your body, because that stops depression and that stops a lot of things.
Thank you, Bonnie, for joining us.